Welcome to Burkland Gardens. Look what I found. Callie, our new puppy for the nursery. Belongs to my grandson and son. So you might have seen Riley in some videos last year, and she was our dog. She was 12 years old and she got cancer last year and passed away. So she's buried here on the property. Callie's a rambunctious little 8-week-old pup, and she kind of wants to get down right now. We're going to do a little tour of the nursery. I'm going to put Callie down so she can just run and do her little thing. On our last video, we did a segment on container gardening and growing plants in containers and how to plant them and all that. And as part of that, I took a tree out of a pot that had been in a pot for at least probably 3 years. It's this Oriental spruce, Picea orientalis skylens. I did some pruning on it. There was a few dead branches to clean it up. That was all part of the video. And then I took it over here and we planted it in the soil. So it's a bit of a mounded area right on the edge of the property, and you'll probably see a shot of the farmland that I'm looking at. They just planted it. The crop is just coming up right now. I think it's wheat, but not absolutely sure. Can't quite tell. Just brand new leaves coming up. So this plant will really thrive now. I'll fertilize it, keep it watered through the winter. It's great soil in here. Skagit Valley farm soil, so we're quite blessed here for what we have as far as soil and water and climate as well, even though it's been awfully cold and wet this year, but still been freezing this week, but now this week it's going to warm up into the high 70s. Looking forward to that. So let's take a tour around the nursery and look at a few plants. In front of me is an interesting slow-growing conifer. It's a type of Thuya. I think it's Thuya occidentalis. Has an interesting name called Mr. Bowling Ball, and it has that rounded habit. In the wintertime it gets a bit of a brown tone to it, and the new growth is going to flush out, which will be real soon now. Will be a nice green color, and it'll stay that way throughout the summer. So this plant here is probably 6 years old or so. It's a nice plant in a grouping in a bed, just triangulating them, so 3 or 5 or 7 I call them a drift sometimes, meaning that there's a drift of plants planted in a row. So interesting plant, and plants are in short supply again this year. I have a grower that had some of these, and I have a couple of them. I'm not sure what's going to be available through the summer, but interesting plant, nice plant for the landscape to add interest. So let's work our way down the line, look at a few other things. Right behind Mr. Bowling Ball is a small plant which I've talked about before. It's Pinus sylvestris gold coin, so a Scotch pine. Interesting story about this one. You can see how small it is. It was a long leggy plant about 5 years ago, and had it at a home and garden show, and my friend Robert Cho, who owns Asia Pacific, he's an importer of bonsai and bonsai materials and tools and pots and all that sort of thing. He came over, and I had my grandson with me, Carter, and he said in some downtime he styled this plant for me, and it was wired up, and he did some pruning and reduced it by about a third, and I've planted it since. I haven't really done any pruning to it since, but it's still keeping its shape and has a nice the branches look nice on it. So it has a little story to it. I planted it for my grandson so that he can hopefully he keeps it for a very long time, and he has that memory of what Robert Cho did for him. So let's move on to the next one. So the next plant we're going to talk about is this Japanese black pine, Pinus thunbergii, and it is a dwarf, and they're called cork bark sometimes because the bark is really rough, and it is a particular cultivar. I don't have the name of this one, which is fine with me. It's going to be in our garden here. Japanese black pines are a very aggressive tree. If you just have a species, they grow large and aggressive. They do two flushes of growth during the year. Needles are long and sharp, but very desirable as garden trees, especially the Japanese, Asian style, or bonsai work. So this one's a little fuller than we would like. There's needling that needs to be done, but we'll get some shots of the bark and the trunk. It's a nice hefty trunk down there with rough bark, and there's some branches that I could even take out today. Actually, I'm going to take this branch out right here. Just kind of open that up a little bit, and then get in there and we can start taking some of the needles out as well. It needs a couple hours of work to get it back into shape, but not getting out of hand. Even though it's a very aggressive tree, this is a very dwarf type. The next tree we're going to talk about is this larch. It is a weeping larch, European weeping larch, and just flushing out. Larches, I just love them. The color in the spring when they come out, this lime green, soft green color. The needles are very, very soft. So this weeping larch, you can get some height out of it by staking it, either early, you can even later on in the year, in its growth, you can pull out a branch and get some height out of it by staking it up like that. Or it's perfectly fine the way it is, if you like that. Just keeping things cleaned out in the fall when they lose all their needles, brush all the needles out, keep them clean, and then these needles will darken up a little bit, and a lot of times they get a second flush of growth, and the contrast between this new growth and the old growth is, I think, pretty striking. So larches, there's lots of dwarf cultivars and some weeping ones. There's the Japanese larch, European, American, so good choice for the garden. So right now I'm at, we talked about Riley a little bit earlier, our golden retriever that just passed away, and this is her grave site, and I've planted a few special plants here. This mugo pine, as far as I know, is very unique and never been in production, but it may be. It still has the production tag on it with a number. When plants are found and then they're kept for numbers of years to see what they do, some growers will put just a number on the tag and won't name it until it actually comes into production. So this one, even though I grafted a few, they're just for me personally. It's a type of mugo that has a needle that is a little bit twisted, and it is quite dense, branching's heavy, so it is just one we're going to enjoy here. It doesn't have a single leader, it has many branches, so typical mugo, Pinus mugo growth habit. So this is our tree to memorialize Riley. To end the video today, we're going to get a shot of some more gold coin Scotch pines. So Pinus sylvestris gold coin. These pines are at least 20 years old. You can see they're quite large. So if they're let go, they get to be a small tree size. The original plant on the property, there's a stock plant that's 50 years old. So they're still in color. They haven't turned green yet, so they're pretty striking this year. I did some pruning on them last year to make them more dense, and so it was reducing the size of the plant by taking out the central leaders, terminal buds or terminal branches. So that is one way of controlling. They're getting a little bit high, and I can't even take the tops out of them, make a crown out of them. But there's so many other things to do that these things do get away from us. But they're looking pretty neat. We might take a few of out because they do get crowded, and just leave 3 or 4 over a period of time. So let me ask a question. This is something you could comment on or send us a message. So I have a couple other, different subjects that, yeah, was going to talk about, but they don't necessarily always connect up with conifers or maples or shrubs. But one of them is turf management, how to put in a lawn, how to take care of a lawn, just, all the different aspects of turf care. So if there's any other things you're interested in, let me know, because I think most of our people that view our videos, they're interested more in the conifers, the maples, the shrubs, the plants in general. So let us know what if you want a video on grass or some other subjects, and we'll do that. Weed management's another one. So anyway, well, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.